Cam, it's Edward Brown and Bruce McGowan.
Hey Cam, what's going on, man?
How are you guys?
We're doing great. How about you?
Okay.
All right, you ready to go? We're going to do a quick introductory segment. Edward introduces it, and we just do about 2 minutes, and then we'll get right into it, okay?
Yep, sounds good.
All right.
Here we go. Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality. Now, Bruce, why is today going to be extra special?
Well, we're going to talk. I can't get the words out of my mouth here. I just finished eating a vanilla ice cream cone. That was a smart thing to do, right? No, we're going to talk some NFL football with two guys who cover the beat very closely. Cam Inman from the Bay Area News Group, who covers the Niners and has been doing that for a number of years. Fine sports writer. And also a little bit later in the show, former 49er Mike Shuman will join us. And Mike works locally with one of the local television shows, television news operations. He's the sportscaster for KGO ABC 7. So some football talk. The NFL is well into its 2016 season, and this is the time to get into it.
Excellent. Okay, and at each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. This time, it's baseball.
Sounds good.
All right. Speaking of baseball, I do have to say that, you know, if you remember the game before the Giants got knocked out, when Brandon Crawford got hit in his elbow at third base.
Right. Mm-hmm.
If you remember the very next, I think it was the very next pitch, if I'm not mistaken, the ball goes to either the first base or to the pitcher. Pitcher's not even looking, but he covers first base. Brandon Crawford could have walked home. And nobody even pointed that out. And I'm looking at him, where is he? And he didn't score.
Well, luckily he did score later in the inning, so
yeah.
it was a moot point. But yeah, it's funny, little things like that happen in sports, and we sometimes just sort of take it for granted that these guys know what they're doing, but they have brain farts just like the rest of us.
Well, and then...
to use an indelicate phrase.
Indelicate, yeah. And then the next game,
right? Characteristically. There you go.
Very much.
Yeah, we're both having problems here.
That's all, folks.
Yeah.
He ends up, throwing an error.
Yeah. Two in the game, actually.
Yeah. And that was a major
200 runs for the Cubs.
All right. So this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding over 8%, secured by Bay Area real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. When we come back, we're going to have Cam Inman on. I almost said Cam Newton.
By the way, Cam Newton hasn't been cleared to play this weekend yet, has he, Cam?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Only Kaepernick can. That's all I know.
Boy, that's a story. Well, we can get into that.
Yeah, I'm going to save the file here.
All right. Cam, where do you live? You live in the East Bay?
Yeah, I live in Boston.
Nice. Okay. But that's a drive. You have to go down to Santa Clara practically 4 days a week, I would think, huh?
Yeah, but it depends. Sometimes it works out all right. That commute's terrible, but get used to it, or you take the train, or...
Oh, that's true. You have Bart over there. That's nice, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yes.
We are ready. Let's do it. Okay. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Bruce, who do we have on the phone?
Well, we have longtime Bay Area sports writer Cam Inman from the Bay Area News Group. He's been covering the 49ers, and of course that's a big story because Colin Kaepernick, sort of a lightning rod for criticism because of his stance protesting the national anthem, is back and starting this weekend against the Buffalo Bills. Cam, that's quite a story. How do you cover a story like this? Because Colin Kaepernick seems to be a lot more agreeable with the media since this incident, but since he's taken this stance, he's become a little more, I don't know what you should say, the word is mature in dealing with those of us in the media, but it's also interesting because Gabbard has just been horrible, so I guess it's a pretty much of an easy decision to make for Coach Kelly.
Yeah, pretty much in the last 2 months, been almost a split job. You have the social news element of what Colin's doing, but then there's also obviously the game aspect of it. And finally, it's time for Colin to get on the field, and we'll be asking him questions about third down incompletions or touchdown passes or breakaway runs rather than just the national anthem protest and racial inequality and police brutality. And it has been a fascinating story for the last couple months because it's captivated the nation, really. And now he can take it to another level with by being the starting quarterback. But at the same time, I think everybody just wants to see if this guy has any game left in his playing career.
I wonder if it's going to be sort of like that Occupy Wall Street, where it had a lot of steam in the beginning and then it just kind of faded out.
Have no idea what you're talking about. And all I can say is that Colin Kaepernick could find Wall Street with the pass if you put him about a walk from it.
You know, the thing that concerns me about Colin Kaepernick, though, getting back to the seriousness of this, is he is not in exactly the greatest physical condition. He's had some injury problems. He's had some off-season surgeries. He's not fully back up to his top weight. And the offensive line isn't terrible, but it's not exactly all pro caliber. I mean, is he going to be able to get enough protection back there?
Don't forget about the hair.
Yeah.
Bruce, you're right. Protection's better this year than it was last year, and I think he rebuilt some of the trust that you need with the offensive line. But the big issue, and it was glaring with playing Gabbard at quarterback, was there's just not enough talent out there in terms of playmakers, either at wide receiver or tight end. It's just a ghastly void that Trent Baalke, the general manager, has neglected to fill year after year in the draft. He went out and got Torrey Smith as a free agent last year, but he's been pretty much invisible for this season and most of last. So that's the big question, is whether Colin is going to be able to elevate some of these other guys' games that need to get elevated.
How about the rest of the league now? A lot of our audience are not from the West Coast, so they're not really interested in the 49ers. The Kaepernick story is certainly a national story, but to me, Cam, and we're talking with Cam Inman, Bay Area News Group, longtime football beat writer. To me, the big story in the first part of the season, the first 5 weeks, has been the surprising play of teams like Atlanta, Dallas, the Raiders, the Rams. I mean, these are teams that nobody predicted to be contenders, and it looks like one or two of them might make the playoffs, maybe all four.
Yeah, well, and also, again, you're only in week 5 here, so a lot of those contenders will emerge, you know. And I do like the Atlanta Falcons as a team. I think their head coach is great. The 49ers and other teams should have hired him. The Falcons were lucky to get him. They got off to a fast start last year as well, and then they petered out. The Rams are a team that's perennially 8-8 under Jeff Fisher, and I don't think anybody's willing to buy into them yet, because this is a team that still needs to rebuild and fill a lot apart. And, you know, they just got beat by the Buffalo Bills last Sunday, and the Bills are the ones that are hosting the 49ers this week. The Bills are a team that's hot. They've won 3 in a row, and you're saying, well, wait a minute, are they for real doing that? Hey, look at the Minnesota Vikings. They're the only unbeaten team, and they're the team that lost their starting quarterback, you know, a few weeks ago, and how are they pulling this off? So, yeah, it's the NFL. Every year there's some Cinderella stories that emerge, and I'm sure there's going to be a couple more highs and lows for teams in the next couple of weeks before we really can focus in on the playoff contenders.
Yeah, I was just reading an article about bringing back the Vegas thing about the Raiders moving to Vegas.
What's your read on that anyway? I'm curious because we've heard the city of Oakland is trying to put together. I guess there are a couple of groups locally, or one group in particular, that seems to have some credibility. But Las Vegas is tempting, and then I hear Cam, and tell me if I'm wrong, that the league is more inclined to have the team stay in Oakland and then go to Las Vegas. But I'm hearing conflicting reports. What have you heard?
Well, I mean, just kind of use your common sense. The NFL's never wanted to get into Las Vegas because of the gambling aspect. There's still gambling there. So they also want the Raiders to get a new stadium in Oakland before they go to Las Vegas. Now, if their only option is Las Vegas, and there's going to be more money for the NFL, and there's any relocation fees, I'm sure the owners will be willing to go forth with it. But they have not exhausted it yet. After covering the 49ers attempt to build a stadium, and I've covered the Raiders when they were considering their options, and Al Davis was insistent that the best site for the Raiders is the one that they're on right now, and they just need to rebuild a stadium. You know, it's interesting to know if the logjam that's going on in Oakland will free up once the Warriors move to San Francisco, if they move, and if the A's ever get their act together in terms of where they want to build a stadium, because there's a huge parcel of land that is great for a sports complex. But the Raiders might be the only team left to play on it. And if that's the case, and they can build a stadium, it's just not easy to do when the stadium costs over $1.5 billion now.
Well, let me ask you, because you mentioned about Vegas and the gambling the whole thing about gambling. I mean, Vegas is going to bet on. There's going to be betting on teams no matter where they're at. Are you thinking that just because they're housed in Vegas that there might be more corruption going on? Is that what you're anticipating?
Well, what do you think? I mean,
Well,
that's what the NFL is not for years and years. Of course, there's people are gambling on the sport event everywhere, but then NFL doesn't want to be as closely associated with that. Neither does any main team. I mean, obviously, I think teams are going to start looking into it more and more because, I mean, you look over in Europe where gambling's more prevalent on sports, you can do it, and they get by. It's just, the NFL tries to remain a holier than, and now look, and it's just, I don't know at some point if they're going to have to bend and say, all right, well, look, it's not Vegas isn't the only place that allows gambling now. There's any
exactly. I was just going to point that out. That there's gambling casinos all around California too.
Yeah. But I mean, it's the whole stigma attached to it, and I mean, I like going to Vegas as much as the next person. I think it'd be interesting to know whether they would be able to support a team because those casinos don't want to let you out. They don't want you going on to a football game for 7 hours. They want you staying in there and spend your money in there. So
that's a good point.
There's a lot of elements at play here before you start counting the Raiders there. They're far from, I think, finishing off a deal for that.
Well, I'll tell you one big problem. They wouldn't allow any time clocks, just like they don't allow it in the casino. So you never know when the game's over.
Hey, before we let you go, Kim, I got to ask you about the injuries this year in the NFL. I don't know if it's any greater number this year than in past years, but my theory is that we're seeing players knocked out more and more these days because these athletes are so superbly conditioned, so much bigger than they have been. It's just a matter of simple physics. The average player in the NFL back in the 1980s was about 230 pounds. The average player probably today, all things considered, might be 260. And these guys are fast. I mean, my gosh. So you're seeing a lot more injuries at a lot earlier stage. I'm concerned with it. And, of course, with all the concussion protocols and all the talk about, CTE and that sort of thing. What's your read on that? Because is it a major problem right now, or do you think that the injuries have just always been a problem with the NFL?
Actually, Cam, can I interrupt for just a second because we have to cut to a quick commercial break.
Okay.
When we come back, can you answer that question, then we'll let you go?
Sure.
Okay. I really appreciate that. All right, here's our first trivia question. And Cam, if you know the answer, don't answer it yet. We'll wait till you come back. All right, talking baseball here. Who was the first player ever to be selected in Major League Baseball's amateur draft? All right, that's our question. All right, email Edward at sportsecon101.com the answer to that question. And don't touch that dial. The SportsEcon 101 will be right back.
All right, Cam, and we'll get you out of here as soon as the. I didn't realize we were up against the clock there.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So are you going back to Buffalo? Are you back in Buffalo right now, or are you going back to?
Heading there tomorrow.
Heading there tomorrow. Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, you don't want to have to spend any more time in Buffalo. Well, this time of year, actually, it's not that bad, though. Probably. Yeah. Have you've been back there before, right?
The last NFL city that I have yet to go to.
Really? Oh, okay. It's interesting. My dad worked in a hospital. Designing hospital medical facilities, and he used to work for many years, several years, at the University of Buffalo, and he actually enjoyed it. He was from New York City, so he didn't mind it so much.
How far is that from Cooperstown?
Buffalo from Cooperstown? Yeah. I think it's a couple hours at least. Yeah.
Okay.
Cooperstown is sort of out in the middle of nowhere.
It's
in a beautiful area, but it's
We went out there in January when there was no leaves, but creepy but fun.
Yeah.
All right, we'll ask this question. Answer the
And we'll let you go. Appreciate you being available,
Cam.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Here was our first trivia question. Who was the first player ever to be selected in Major League Baseball's amateur draft?
It had to be back in the 1970s, maybe, but
1960s.
1960s. Cam, do you have any? You want to venture a guess? I'm clueless here, and baseball's my favorite sport, but I don't know this one.
1973.
No, okay. It was Rick Monday.
Kansas
City Athletics, 1965.
Yeah. Who played a role with the A's and then was traded right before they became great. And of course, Rick Monday is best remembered for two things: first of all, saving the American flag, which was being
Yeah,
lit
that's right.
by, you remember that, Cam?
When he played with the Dodgers, right?
Yeah, when he was with the Dodgers, and then he hit a pennant-winning homer in Montreal during the National League Championships in 1981, I believe,
Yeah.
and the Dodgers went on to win the World Series that year. Well, Cam, we're talking with Cam Inman, who was a longtime Bay Area sports writer covering the 49ers for the Bay Area News Group. We're talking about the injury situation. Do you think it's any worse this year, or are we just more aware of it? It just seems like, every time you look at the injury list, my God, like Cam Newton is probably the most prominent player to have been on the sidelines recently, but there are a lot of other guys. Do you see any problems, more problems this year? Is it just football is such a violent game inherently, and you're going to get guys falling by the wayside?
Yeah, well, I think you're right on both accounts. One, it's obviously the violence of the game, and that's why people think that the NFL and tackle football is doomed. 20 years down the line, what's going to happen? These guys are bigger, faster, stronger, which means the collisions are more violent. But guys, it's not just the collisions. People get hurt with just non-contact injuries. Their knees will blow out, they'll lose their ACLs, will get torn. Achilles, same thing, where the guys, their bodies are so ripped, and then there might be a freak incident where, boom, your season's over just like that. And that happens. That happened up in Minnesota with Teddy Bridgewater. The Niners linebacker Navarro Bowman tore his Achilles just running towards line of scrimmage, non-contact. It's just part of sports as well. There's injuries in sports. We aren't on Wall Street necessarily doing that stuff, but it's a big money game, and that's why if you can survive and succeed, then you're going to get paid.
Yeah, even basketball, you're getting these guys having these non-contact injuries.
Sure. Well, that's true. Well, listen, Cam, we know you got to get going because Cam is on his way to Buffalo to cover the 49ers this weekend. Thanks so much for spending some time with us, and we look forward to having a chance to chat again.
Thanks, Cam.
You're welcome, guys. Have a great weekend.
You too. That's Cam Inman from the Bay Area News Group, and Cam is a guy that, like a lot of us who have covered football for a long time, I have a fascination with the game, as I know a lot of our listeners do, not just because I'm a fan of our local teams, but I think if you get exposed to the game as a child, and I'm sure you did.
Yep.
My dad took me to my first NFL game in 1959 when I was 7 years old, and I saw a rookie coach by the name of Vince Lombardi.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, and it was his first year with the Packers. And the next year they were in the NFL Championship, 1961. They won the first of four. But the 49ers that year had Y.A. Tittle and Hugh McElhinney and R.C. Owens and Joe the Jet Perry. And it was, a 7-year-old kid. You're watching Hall of Fame players in this old stadium, Kezar Stadium in the middle of Golden Gate Park.
Did you appreciate it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
no question. The thing I remember most about that game, not only just watching the play, but was the band kept playing On Wisconsin because the Packers ended up winning the game 34-14, I think it was. And every time they'd score, they'd play On Wisconsin, On Wisconsin. I go, why do they keep playing that song?
The first football game I ever attended was the first year that Monday Night Football.
1970.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which game did you see?
I saw them just crush the Cincinnati Bengals. It was the Raiders.
Nice. There you go. Yeah. It's interesting. We were talking about the NFL this year. I think that the parody thing that Pete Rozelle, the late great Pete Rozelle, who was the commissioner back in the 60s and 70s and all the way up through the 1980s, talked about parody, and he wanted to see a league where everybody had a chance to be in the playoff picture.
Which is good.
Well, it's good for the fans.
Yeah.
It's not good for the quality of play. For instance, to get that kind of play, you have to have teams constantly turning their rosters over. And back in the day, and I say back in the day, I mean prior to the early 1990s, teams had a core of guys, the good teams, that they stayed with. And fans became familiar with them. They were part of the community. Look at the Pittsburgh Steelers as an example.
I was going to say the Washington Redskins.
Oh, the Washington Redskins.
Sonny Jurgensen's still playing.
Yeah. He's doing I think he's still doing the radio broadcast. Yeah, on the Redskins radio.
Sammy Baugh.
Well, that's going back a little further.
Yeah.
Sammy Baugh was a character. I think he just passed away a few years ago. Man, he was a piece of work. But what I'm saying, Edward, is I think it's good for the game. And it's good for the communities when you have guys that are there for a long time because they identify with them. And it's not just the laundry, so to speak, the uniform they're wearing. It's the players. And the great teams do that. The good teams don't do it as much, and the bad teams just turn over their roster and turn over their front office. And you see this happen in American business. I think American business could learn a lot from pro sports if they tried to cultivate the same kind of philosophy.
You know, it's interesting. I've heard that the millennials are the ones that it's like every so often, every couple of years, they're just out. Okay, gotta get a new job.
Well, it's the environment though. I mean, they're not encouraged, and I think from the start when you get into the profession, whatever profession you're in, they don't encourage people to be loyal to companies anymore. They don't set up a family kind of an atmosphere. That doesn't exist in America anymore.
Believe it or not, you'd be
well, it happens in certain. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
It does happen, but I'm just saying it's the exception rather than the norm. And maybe that's been true for a good number of years anyway. I just know in broadcasting, it's always been kind of a crazy quilt world. But I will say that in broadcasting, unfortunately, and I don't know if a lot of our listeners know this. I don't want to get off on a tangent about this, but broadcasting has consolidated so much. The product has been so watered down that if you're, one of these guys like myself who's been doing this for a number of years, after you get to a certain age, they say, we don't need him anymore. And they're not even paying you that much to begin with. They're paying you a decent salary, but they don't care about quality. They just want to get a young, hungry person that's going to work 60 hours a week, and they can pay them.
For nothing.
Yeah, for practically. I mean,
because
enough
the glory of being on radio.
Well, yeah, and I hate to say it, we see this a lot in broadcasting, and I don't think a lot of people realize this, only because there is so much social media today, and there is so much, cable television and satellite radio that the attention is so diverted.
They're not doing it on TV, though.
Not as much on television, but you'd be surprised. And here's an interesting thing. Podcasting has become really popular in radio. And if you can have a lot of fun doing podcasting, but if you want to make a living doing that, you better be very creative to try to make a living being a podcaster, because it's almost impossible. You can make a little money on the side. So what I'm saying is that our industry, like all industries, has diversified, but at the same time, I think there has been this tendency to think of the workers as interchangeable parts, and you don't want to do that on the pro sports level to the point where you water down your product, because your fans aren't going to show up after a while.
Except for the ones where they just keep buying different jerseys all the time.
Yeah. But at the same time, I was talking to Derek Carr of the 49ers about this, the Raiders about this the other day, the fine young quarterback, and I was asking him, I said, you guys have scored only 9 more points than you've given up. Yet you're 4-1. The Chargers, the team that you just beat, they beat them this past weekend on a botched field goal attempt by San Diego, have scored actually more points than they've given up, yet they are 1-4. And he says, the difference.
Blowout.
Yeah, he says the difference between a 4-1 team and a 1-4 team right now is maybe a field goal. He says that most of us are 8-8 quality teams. And he wasn't knocking his own team, but the Raiders up until this week, as we speak, they're 4-1. They haven't put together a good game yet. They've been lucky to win 4 games.
Yeah.
They haven't.
I don't know. There's going to be. It's like baseball when you get down to. Well, I guess actually football gets a little bit more exciting in the last couple of weeks when you've got a bunch of teams who are really in the hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I like that. I don't want to see 10-6, and then everyone else is 4-4.
Sure. Well, no, it keeps it. That's exactly what Pete Rozelle was talking about. He was saying we need to have more parity because there were teams like Atlanta and New Orleans back in the 60s and 70s, 70s and 80s.
They never got close.
Never got close. And, a lot of that had to do with ownership, and a lot of it had to do with personnel. And if you find good football people, smart scouts and a good system, you're not going to let those guys walk away. You're going to pay them what you need because you take pride in building a winner.
Well, also, then remember how John Elway, when he first came out from Stanford, he said, I am not playing for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess they were the Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I think they just changed.
Just changed for Baltimore, yeah. Well, he threatened to play Major League Baseball, if he could have made it. That's an interesting story because I covered him a little bit in college. And, boy, you talk about a roller coaster career because he was in 3 Super Bowls and they got murdered in all 3 of them by the 49ers, by the Redskins, and I'm trying to remember the New York Giants. Yeah. And then he 7 or 8 years later, towards the end of his career, he finally gets to win 2 of them.
Yeah.
And now he's put together some pretty good teams in Denver. So John Elway is quite a story.
And was he a pitcher in baseball?
I believe so. I believe he was.
Typical,
big guy. I mean, he's kind of like Andrew Luck. It's another Stanford, another great Stanford athlete, quarterback who I don't think, unfortunately for him, has had nearly the kind of support of the offensive line that John had. Although Elway he took some shots early in his career. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he had the good legs to
Yeah.
to get away.
Get away. Yeah.
All right. Here we're going to go to our second commercial break trivia question. Here again, we're talking baseball. Who was Major League Baseball's first designated hitter, and who was the first pitcher to pitch to a designated hitter?
Okay.
All right, that's our question. And again, you take, if you know the answer, email Edward at sportsecon101.com to answer this question. Talking baseball here. Who was Major League Baseball's first designated hitter? Do you know this one?
I believe I do. Yes.
Okay. And who was the first pitcher to pitch?
I know part of it. I'm not sure who the pitcher was.
That one might be tough.
Yeah, that might be.
All right, so stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, and we're going to be right back.
Okay, we should probably give Shu a call.
Yeah, 5 minutes till.
Yeah, so I told him a quarter till, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You have his number? Do you need it?
Actually, you.
Actually, give it to you there. Okay. Yeah, last night it was funny. I put in phone calls to Ted Robinson, Bill Romanowski, 2 other guys. I never got phone calls back, and then I called both Cam and Shu this morning. Oh, no problem.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, there's.
Cam, is he like not a friendly guy, or?
He's got a little bit of a. Yeah, but he's okay. Yeah, he's not a real.
I mean, I don't expect everyone to laugh.
No. He's kind of a little bit of a sourpuss sometimes. It's funny because you meet him, he's always smiling and happy. He's a young guy, very clean cut. When I say young, I mean he's in his probably late 40s now, but family man, nice guy. Does a lot of. He did a lot of TV work. When I was working at Comcast and producing a couple of shows there, we had him come in as a guest, probably a couple times a month. He's good.
All right, so we're going to call Mike.
Call Shu.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a good guy.
Yeah, we had.
And he's been on once before. Of course, he did some radio. We worked together actually at KNBR for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike the Shoe.
Mike Shuman. Shufu.
He wasn't a tight end, right?
No, wide receiver, yeah.
Hello.
Is this Mike Shuman? This is Edward Brown and Bruce McGowan.
Hey, Shu, what's happening?
Oh, hey, guys.
You ready to go with us?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get right into it here. We're coming out of a break. We're gonna do a quick trivia question, and then we'll introduce you and then get this thing going.
All right, here we go. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Here was our second trivia question about baseball. Who was Major League Baseball's first designated hitter, and who was the pitcher to pitch to a designated hitter?
Well, I've always been told it was Ron Blomberg of the New York Yankees.
Very good.
Yeah.
That's April 6, 1973.
73. But I'm not sure who the pitcher was. Probably somebody with the Red Sox or.
Yes.
73. Who was pitching for the Louis T?
Yes.
That was a good guess. That was a good guess. Anyway.
Right. So who's on the phone?
Oh,
now?
we got former 49er wide receiver, a good friend of mine who we worked briefly together a couple of years at KNBR, the all sports station in San Francisco, and now Mike Shuman has been with KGO Television for, gosh, it's been about, I'm going to say 20 years, Mike. Have you been there that long?
24 years.
Whoa!
15 minutes and 8 seconds.
24 years. I always said Mike was doing mornings and I was doing afternoons, the updates. And Mike got fired. I got fired a few years later because of management change. I think it was the best thing that ever happened to you, man. You got the full-time gig at KGO. You've been there ever since, and life hasn't been too bad.
No, I can't complain. I actually went over to KGO radio. Walked off pregame sideline. The news director at KGO Television heard me on the air and asked if I'd be interested in doing TV, and here I am 23 years later. So you both know nobody keeps out that long.
Well, in the Bay Area, sometimes it does happen. And Mike also got the singularly good fortune to play with the first team in San Francisco history that won a Super Bowl, the 1981 Cinderella 49ers, who, of course, got into the Super Bowl by getting the amazing catch by Dwight Clark in the end zone. And talk a little bit about that team, Mike, because that was a fun team, and it was a team that 2 years previous had the worst record in football, but Bill Walsh had some magic going with that team.
Well, I played on the 2-14 team, 78-79. So, yeah, you're right. It was probably one of the worst periods during the 49ers history. And then we knew when Bill came in, though, that there was something going on. Because in 79, even though we were 2-14, we weren't losing games like we were in 17. Bill just didn't have any talent on that team. I mean, come on, I was the starter on that team.
I love a guy with humility.
Yeah, so anyway, then we started that year 1-2. So, we didn't even think then, we were just going to have a winning season. We weren't even thinking playoffs. Then we won 9 straight, I think. Lost to Cleveland late in the year. It was kind of a wake-up call because, we beat Washington in Washington, Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. And then we started thinking, hey, maybe we can, make something out of this and get to the playoffs. And then, of course, got to buy in the first round, beat the Giants at home, and then, of course,
The catch game against Dallas, yeah.
That one catch. I made the first catch in the game. Do I get any credit? I might have dropped that ball. Somebody would have gone in the tank. He would have never thrown that ball.
Exactly. You should take all the credit.
I get nothing.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, it's interesting in that game, Shu. I was covering that game. I'm sitting next to Monty Stickles. You remember Monty? He also worked at KGO, and he also played for the 49ers during an earlier era in the 1960s. And Monty was just beside himself with joy. The thing about that game I remember most, though, was that you guys actually turned the ball over 6 times against the Cowboys, but you still managed to win that game.
Well, it was mostly because Danny White fumbled at the end.
Well, that was the last play that put it away. But I mean, how do you overcome 6 turnovers?
Well, as you know, both of you know, you don't win in a title game. And so I think we had 3 interceptions, 3 fumbles. So it's to this day I look back and think, what the heck is that? I think they had 5. If I remember.
Yeah, it was a sloppy game.
With Becky and Lawrence Miller causing a fumble recovery.
Yeah.
Because of Eric Wright getting the credit, because he tackled
Drew Pearson.
Yeah.
and that would have been a horsepower tackle these days and a penalty, and probably kick a field goal to win. So if he doesn't make that tackle right there, they probably kick one more play, kick a field goal, and win, and nobody even remembers that. So
Well, and then even
that's how key Eric Wright's tackle was in that situation.
well, and then going into the Super Bowl, if I remember against the Bengals, wasn't there something towards the very? I remember Crumry breaks his ankle like some first or second play or something, and then. But toward the end of the game, though, I mean, that game was really close.
It was, second half.
Yeah.
They beat us, man. It was the first time playing for Bill Walsh that he took his foot off the gas pedal and tried not to lose instead of just continue to lose. Because we were up 21, 20, I think it said nothing at half.
You were up by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, and so he just kind of backed off, and boy, they just started driving. Anderson was playing. The tight end had about 9 or 10 catches. Ross, big Ross. But anyway.
I mean, you always hear that about playing not to lose, and it always seems to backfire. It's like, why do guys even do that? Why don't they just continue to do what you're doing? Are you afraid to get hurt or?
2-14 2 years in a row, and you get up 21-0. Well, you're gonna try to hold on. So the only time, like I said, though, ever. I don't think he ever did it again because they got so close to maybe winning it.
Well, what was it like playing for Bill Walsh? Because he was a very, very bright guy, but he was also extremely intense. And a lot of people don't know this, but Bill Walsh and Eddie DeBartolo Jr., the team owner, they had a lot of behind-the-scenes spats and screaming matches. They managed to coexist, but Bill actually left the 49ers. He told me this in later years. He probably left too early because Eddie was driving him crazy. As good as an owner as Eddie was, because Eddie took care of the players and rewarded his coach, but Bill was wound really tight, and so was Eddie.
But what was the
we all joke that Eddie fired Bill at least 5 times.
Like Billy Martin type.
And Carmen Policy, all come looking around at Carmen's school where he just went back to the school.
Yeah.
He'd go talk to Eddie, and then Bill would show up on.
But what was the contentiousness going on?
Eddie just wanted to win, and he gave Bill everything he needed, a coaching have money for players, and I think it was more of that. And then I think Bill was getting a lot of the credit too. You know, turning this franchise around when in fact Eddie behind the scenes didn't mind, but I think he started feeling like he should get a little more of that attention. So, and then Bill, like you said, Bruce, told me years later that I should have never walked away after that third Super Bowl. He was just burnt out. He thought he was done, and took some time off, and he was ready to go, but it was too late. So that fourth Super Bowl was really Bill Walsh, even though George Seaver won it.
Yeah, and that Bill Walsh to me was also, as I mentioned, one of the most fascinating characters because after wins, sometimes he would be very, very curt and frosty with the media, and it was almost like he was telling the media, "Well, you guys didn't think we could do this, but we did."
Right.
What was it like playing for this guy? What was he? How was he in terms of interacting as a player with a guy of his stature?
Well, the first year, '79, when he came in, and he had been an assistant coach his whole career, didn't get the job. Paul Brown gave him the Tigers, and almost blackballed Bill out of the league. Paul Brown thought he was a snake oil salesman. So Bill took the job at Stanford, and then he, of course, got the 49ers job in '79. So he had that assistant coach mentality where he was really close to the players. He had a wicked sense of humor. It was really fun to play for. But then the following year, he became GM and head coach. We had to deal with us in our contract. Bill used to always tell me he thought he should make $1 more than the highest paid player on the team. Well, because otherwise he would lose control of the.
Yeah, good point.
If a player was making more than the head coach, it felt like he couldn't control it. And O.J. Simpson was in that situation his last 2 years, '78, '79. Bill couldn't wait to get rid of him because he couldn't control it. And so that was something I always thought was kind of fascinating. And when I tell that to other coaches, they agree. I told Steve Kerr last year, he goes, "Oh, I'd love to make $1 more."
Yeah, really.
I would get $18 million.
Well, what was it like playing with O.J. Simpson for a short time?
Well, it's funny because back then you didn't get the football coverage like with all the different networks. We had one big game a week, so a lot of guys didn't get O.J. playing Buffalo a lot because they weren't that good of a team. And so when he got there, his knee was gone, but he had to do more on one leg than the guys still do on two. So it was amazing to watch him. He was done in his career. Coach Thomas brought him to gave up 2 or 3 first-round draft choices, and really set the team back that way.
Yeah.
Houston really didn't have it. He didn't know the offense. Steve DeBerg would literally call the huddle in the play. He'd go, say it was a pass play, red, right, 22Z in. O.J., you run a flat on 1. So he had to tell Jude every time. Red, right, 18 Bob, that's a pitch to O.J. to the left. Literally, call the play for us, told O.J. what to do.
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember watching those games. I mean, I followed him when coming out of USC to Buffalo, and just really enjoyed watching his career. When he got traded to the 49ers, it was like I was kind of excited because I was a big OJ fan, but watching him was kind of painful because you could see that he just didn't have it. I mean, it's funny because now I look back and I think Barry Sanders to me was more exciting to watch, and as exciting as OJ was.
And Barry Sanders probably could have played a couple more years. What's interesting, O.J. Simpson was a San Francisco native too. Grew up in Potrero Hill, went to Galileo High School, and what a great. Well, shoot, you've had so many good memories. We do want to take a break here in just a minute, but I want to get into the NFL, and Edward and I want to talk about the current 2016 season. But just to reminisce one more time about playing in that era when you did. Football players made decent money, and they got exposure from the media, but it was a different world. What was it like being a pro athlete, a young guy in your mid to late 20s, making decent money, and you're playing for a team in San Francisco, which was really, special. The relationship the fans had at that time with the 49ers was just beginning. They were just beginning this great run of 16 playoff appearances in 18 years.
Well, you'd be surprised. Most of us, the average salary back then was
$60,000, okay. Which was decent money for 1981,
I came to the Niners in '77, I think it was my first year. I was making the NFL minimum, which was $35,000, and I was a starter. Then I jumped 55 and then 75. So we all had to work in the off season. I was selling sporting goods down at where was it? Down in San Mateo. I think basic pennies or something. And and then working out too. We worked out on our own because we only had one mini camp back then. We didn't have all the OTAs. We went to training camp to get into shape. And so it was a different era. We all were just happy to be getting paid to play. And it was more about winning championships, but none of us were making it.
Well, they still pay a big, if you won a championship, you still got paid a fairly good bonus, right?
Well, actually, I think I won 18 grand for the Super Bowl, another 6. I almost won my salary that year when we won the Super Bowl in '81.
Wow.
And then I think it was after that season, Joe and Dwight, when Eddie invited him back to his house in Youngstown, and by the end of the night, they had new contracts and they were both making about 600 grand.
Wow.
And basically went over Bill's head to Eddie to give these guys these players. So Bill resented that the rest of his career. Some say this is why he traded Bill and told Dwight over after he hurt his knee.
Money. It all comes down to money all the time.
Well, exactly. Yeah. But Bill really had a problem with that, and I think that created a little problem. And but it was we were just enjoying. Nowadays, for instance, I said last year when the Warriors lost in Game 7, they make 10 to 18 million dollars a year. So it's easier to go home when you lose like that.
That's a good point. Hey, Mike, stay with us. We're just going to come to a quick break, and then we'll let you go afterward. Okay? Baseball question. All right. Who was the first baseball player to lead the major leagues in batting average for 3 consecutive years? Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101 will be right back.
Good stuff, Shu.
Yeah.
So we got to wrap it up after this segment?
What's that?
We have to wrap it up after this segment?
Yeah.
Okay,
So this is going to be really, really short. So basically, we'll just say goodbye after.
Yeah. Are you, you don't do any traveling with the 49ers anymore, do you, Shu?
A couple of years ago we did, but we don't anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's probably for the best anyway. I mean, getting on a commercial plane in this day and age is a pain in the rear.
Dude, I did it 2.5 years, or 2 years in a row with the Warriors. Nightmare.
Yeah. Vernon is doing a lot of that with the Raiders, and I guess Vernon, of course, he's like a little ball of energy, but he's got 3 boys and a wife who is high maintenance at home. So he's always, but I think he just really likes. That's kind of who he is.
Well, it's kind of an escape, really.
Yeah, it is an escape.
Yeah,
it is. We're both good friends with, and you know Vernon well enough. I mean, he's a piece. I love Vernon. He's just a piece of work.
Going to work is a vacation.
Yeah, it is a vacation. Yeah.
All right, so we're just going to ask this question and just get a quick closing comment from you, and then we'll say goodbye. Okay, Mike? All right. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate you doing this short notice, Mike. It's very nice of you.
Oh. I should say who dropped out.
No, we didn't have any dropouts. I just, I don't know if I've told you about my personal situation, but my wife has got stage 4 breast cancer. She's had it for
I knew that,
yeah, and it's just been, she had a mastectomy a couple weeks ago, and it's been kind of crazy. She's doing okay, but, I've just been kind of a basket case every other day. Some days are good, like today's been good because I got some surfing in. Other days, not so good. It's a roller coaster, and it's gonna be that way for the rest of her life. So we just have to kind of figure out a way to get through it. So
right.
So that's why I kind of let things slide with giving people a call. I just wasn't thinking.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Here we go.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Here is last trivia question: who was the first baseball player to lead the major leagues in batting average for 3 consecutive years?
And it had to be going back to maybe Ty Cobb.
Yes, very good. Boy, you did really well today.
Yeah, I know my baseball.
1907, 08, and 09.
Yeah,
then he did it for 5 years.
And he never won a World Championship. He played in 2 World Series, but his teams were beaten badly, and he didn't play that well.
Oh.
So, not a nice man, though, Ty Cobb.
Yeah, so he deserved it.
Well, listen, Mike Shuman, thanks so much for joining us. Spur of the moment. I got Mike on the phone earlier today, good friend of ours, and we've worked alongside him at KNBR. Now he's, as he mentioned, at KGO for 20-plus years television. Keep up the good work, Shu.
All right, I got one final trivia question.
Okay, good.
2 former 49er receivers were born on this day. I just think 2 former great receivers were born on this day.
Okay, one of them is you. Is that right?
That is right.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
See, my anniversary is tomorrow, so I kind of knew that. All right.
Your anniversary's tomorrow.
Yes,
Who's the other one?
Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice. Wow, pretty good company.
Excellent.
And your anniversary is tomorrow, too.
It is 27 years.
Wow.
I don't know if I was born first or married first. Okay, Mike Shuman, thank you so much for joining us on Sports Econ 101.
All right, guys.
All right, take it easy.
Good talking to you,
See,
Shu.
I knew as soon as he said
That's
great,
wild.
I knew he was talking about himself.
Wow.
Isn't he a good player?
Yeah, he was a decent player.
All right, here we go. Here's our baseball thoughts for the day. If a woman is given a choice between catching a fly ball and saving an infant's life, she will choose saving the infant every time without even considering how many men are on base.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bob Lemon said, baseball is a kid's game. It's the adults that screw it up.
Bob Lemon, I covered Bob Lemon when he was managing the Yankees in 1981. He managed the second half. Gene Michael managed the first half. The strike broke up the season, and the Yankees won the pennant that year, but got beaten by the Dodgers.
In 81.
And Fernando Valenzuela's rookie year.
That's right.
Yeah. I was working in New York at the time I got to cover that series. That was a lot of fun.
I kept thinking, every time I watched Fernando Valenzuela pitch, I kept thinking he was looking at airplanes.
Oh, yeah.
He's,
that's kind of an Aztec thing, I think, or a Mayan thing. You look up at the gods.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and giving away, or actually, we're going to ask some more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
All right, good deal.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you,
All
sir.
right, yeah, we got two good guests on
Yeah, that was good.
Okay, good football talk.
Excellent.
Oh, man.